Testing 1, 2, 3. Hello, friends. I seem to be getting a little static, so let's do an experiment here. Okay, that was not the cause. Let's try another one. There we go. All right, that was... I seem to be getting a little static, so let's do an experiment here. Let's turn down that monitor. Uh-oh. Now I'm getting a terrible buzz. Okay, let's try now. There we go. Whew. All right. Those of you who think this is easy, no, it's not. It is not predictable. Sometimes we get clean electricity and sometimes we get dirty electricity. All right, now I am going to try to, there we go. No, that's not it. I'm going to try to get a monitor for you Facebook people. There we go. There we go. Excellent. All right. Whoops, I forgot to do my chalk here. So I'll erase all this. This is Daily Art Adventure number 867. More, I repeat, more final edits. March coronavirus date CV47. I don't know. Anyway, today is March 26, right? And bear with me just a minute here. We're still getting a little bit of noise. So let me see if I can fix that. I just turned you Facebook people down a little bit because I think we were getting a kind of overdrive sound there. All right, welcome 4 people on Facebook and 5 people on YouTube. Thanks for joining me. So I called this again, more final edits. I'm not sure I would have started broadcasting today, except that I think there's a whole lot of people who are sitting around at home with nothing to do. I can't even run out to my local art supply store today and buy a canvas that I need. So I'll be ordering it online. All right. How long can one keep this final edit thing going? The answer is tragically forever. But as you probably know, it's real easy to keep on going when you should quit. So just some fresh eyes today, looking at things. Oh yes, you see, sure enough, if you start looking at stuff, here's the danger, right? When you start looking at things, seems like you can always find something to tweak. And I'm hoping that you all are understanding that that's a real danger, right? Be careful of this tweaking forever, because it often leads to overworking things. But here's what I'm looking at right now. The color in this print is no, that's not quite right. The color in the print is slightly more intense than the color in the painting, and even though some of this is photographic artifact, that is to say it's an exaggeration, so I don't obey it slavishly because it's a photograph. And you don't want to slavishly copy your photographs. You know that. But it makes me look at my painting and say, well, wait a minute. Would my painting be better if I emulated, in this regard, if I emulated the photograph a little bit? And I've just concluded that indeed it would. The painting would be better if I actually pumped the color. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just adding a tiny bit of warm yellow and a more intense warm yellow than what was here, just a few minutes ago. And indeed, I find myself quite happy that I have done so. Makes me smile somewhere deep inside. Want to see? Sorry, was I on camera for that cheesy smile? Likewise, pump the color. There's a little bit of orange blood, backlit ear happening here. So there, just a little bit of intensification of color. Oh, and there is one other thing that I see. How about that? I'm seeing all kinds of things. Again, this may be simply an artifact. I like that word now, can you tell? This may be simply an artifact of photography, and you need to watch out for those things. You don't want to slavishly do something simply, because it's in the photograph. But in the photograph, there's some blue in this eye. And so then I asked myself, well, would my painting look better if in fact there was a tiny bit of blue in the eye? And as you can see, I've just answered that question. Now I have a little bit of, now I have a little tiny bit of a mist of phthalo blue down here, and a tiny bit of ultramarine there in his eyes, which broadens the color range of this painting, which generally speaking, broadening color range is almost always a good idea. Given the choice, would our eyes rather see more color or less color, all things being equal? The answer, of course, most of the time, all things being equal, which they aren't always equal, but most of the time, yes, our eyes would rather see more than less. And now I see it'd be better if there's a little halo of light up here. So I'm actually doing a whole lot more to this painting than I thought I would. But I'm really glad that I've taken this one final look at this painting, because I believe in just a few minutes here, I've made it better. There you go, Jean-Paul. My client for this is an old friend, Jean-Paul, who I met several years ago when I did a painting of his wedding about a year after the wedding took place. It was really, it's actually, to this day, it's on my wedding painter, weddingpainter.com, in the post-wedding painting category. He and his bride were married on the beach in the Caribbean, and they did not have a good photograph of the event. So Jean-Paul and I met over coffee, literally over coffee, and he described to me the scene, what it looked like, and I just sat there and did a number of sketches, made a number of modifications as he watched over my shoulder till we achieved, and he said, yeah, that's it. So then I came home and did a painting of his wedding based entirely on his description. And I can do the same for you if somebody got married and didn't have a great picture. In fact, that's coming up next as a similar. I'll describe that in a minute, but let's finish this guy. So this is a little chewy. I would like to know what brand of dog it is. Miniature collie? I don't know. I mean, that's what I'm not a dog expert, but it's obviously a collie brand. But I'm assuming not pure collie, because he's a tiny little thing. Anyway, very cute dog, and doggone it if I am not surprised at how much improvement I just made. I'm glad I took this. Let me pause for just a second and say, okay, what's the dynamic, what's the principle at work here? I've talked about it over and over this week. It has to do with fresh eyes. After working on any portrait, even a pet portrait, for any number of minutes, and it doesn't have to be a long time, 10, 15, 20, 25 minutes, you become what I call portrait blind. So you really don't see it. The traditional approach is sleep on it, come back the next day. So that's what I've done. I haven't worked on this painting since 2 days ago, and I'm so glad that I decided to touch it up because with just a few minutes, I'm a whole lot more proud of that. All right, let's move on. Here is another after wedding painting, and it's sort of similar to what I just described with Jean Paul. Jamie sent me this assignment last week. By the way, in case you haven't heard, I still have openings. I am doing, this is crazy. You can have, I had my head examined, but I'm doing portraits for $350. Why? Because the whole dang world is in a financial crisis, including me, by the way. I've had about $25,000 worth of work that was supposed to happen between now and the 1st of May, all disappeared. So you put the number, you figure it out. Anyway, so I said, well, okay, I've got to do something, and I want to beef up, practice my portrait skills. So I'm doing them for $350. If you want me to do one for you, that's about 1/4 of my normal price. Well, why? Because the world's in crisis. I'm here to entertain you, and I want to practice. So anyway, what Jamie sent me, he's been married several years. I think they have a couple kids, and they did not have a good portrait of the bride. He sent this, where's the photograph? Here it is. This that I put together is a composite of 4 different images. Count them, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I wiggle my fingers just so you get the point. 4 different images. The bottom of her dress, her head, her main body, bottom of her dress 3, and then in her face I tweaked a bunch of things in Photoshop. In the photograph, she was standing here with her arm around a friend. So I completely removed the friend, moved her shoulders, because of course when a person goes like this with their, see, look what happens to your shoulder when you put your arm around somebody. So in Photoshop I changed her shoulder from this to this. Anyway, great fun. I really will want to post this painting at weddingpainter.com in the post-wedding category with the photographs right beside it, so people can actually get a vision for what if you don't have any good photos, I mean, of your bride or of the bridal couple or of your wedding day. Well, this is what I can do. Anyway, and I'm quite happy with this. I did minimal cheating, virtually no cheating on either, cheating, quote unquote, on either the Chewy the dog or in this one. But I'm quite happy with this. I am going to make one tiny little tweak. And that is, again, looking at this with fresh eyes right here today. I think I can zoom in as far as I can here. With fresh eyes, I said, you know what? In fact, this is so fussy. And I think there's only one thing I'm going to do. I'm going to put on my super X-ray glasses because I want to widen her iris about a 64th of an inch, maybe less, to the right. There. Literally, less than a 64th of an inch. That's why I had to use the magnifying glasses. Because her iris was at least conceivably a little too small, which you never want a beauty feature to be diminished. Right, eyes are the most significant beauty feature on any face, and if you're going to have them, you want them exact. First of all, let's just be straight. You want them exact. But once they're exact, let me widen out here. So once they're exact, when you look at them, you go, well, if I'm off at all, I want them slightly larger, not slightly smaller. So that was the rationale there. So I have just, as you see, less than with my, you saw it, added just a hair. Now it turns out she's looking straight at us, which was my original plan, and I'm fine with that. So there we go, finishing touch number 2 is done. Now here's Miss Kim. By the way, one of the paintings I've pulled up today I'm going to work on quite a bit. This is Kim Coley, affectionately known at my house as Tim Tolley. She's a friend of the family. She's running for office, making a speech. This is going to be a surprise gift for her husband, I believe. I think her husband. Oh yeah, she said that, his birthday. I don't know if it's a surprise or not. Maybe it's not. But anyway, nonetheless, a gift for her husband. And we met her a couple years ago when some of my grandchildren couldn't pronounce their K's. Instead, they replaced K with T. So every time I think about her, I think her name is Tim Tolley. Sorry, just a little silly grandpa humor there. All right, and I'm likewise, I'm quite happy with the likeness here. This is not a particularly flattering photograph of her. She's a very attractive woman, and this is not a good photo. So I am much happier with my painting. All right, the first thing I'm going to do, again, so I'm seeing it with fresh eyes, and the question, again, how long could you keep working on a painting? Well, tragically, you could keep working forever until you've overdone it, but that brush is too scrappy. Let's see if I've got a better one here. Her nose, her nostril here looks just a tiny bit flared to me. I mean, it looks a little bit flared in the photograph too, but I don't like the flare that it has in the photograph. So I'm going to try to shave. This is all so fussy. I almost need my magnifying glasses again to see, but I'm not. Being careful here not to, even though I'm holding, as you can see, the brush in this horrible hyper-controlled fashion. Now I'm not. Now I'm using it, but it's still choked way up. Oh boy, it still feels like her nostril is flared. So this might be one of those cases where something else, it's not the top of it, it might be something else. No, that's okay. That's okay. Now, as I look at it today with fresh eyes, I say, wait a minute. Her hair, which of course is blonde, I think it could have a little bit, just a little bit more highlight in it. Light. Am I saying that? Light highlights. Lighter highlights. Forgive me for beating the language to smithereens. So just a little bit. Don't overdo it. I guess that would be the universal advice for finishing touches. Be careful. Don't overdo it. Don't lose freshness in the interest of accuracy. Ooh, that's a good way. Let me say that again. Don't sacrifice freshness solely in the interest of accuracy. Those two things are in tension, and they need to stay in tension, and you need to be careful when you're doing finishing touches that you don't just get carried away with accuracy. Does that make sense? Yeah, because that's where overworked come from. And you, if you're a painter, you know very well. By the way, let's see what kind of chats. Hello, Jane. Hello, Jody. Hello, Rebecca. And over here on Rebecca's got tips for my dog, I think. Hello, Betty Funk. Good to hear from you. Hello, Cheryl. Oh, thanks. Yes, I did paint for both of Cheryl's boys. A real distinct pleasure. Cheryl and Tom were old friends from way back, so it was fun to be reunited with them when I painted their boys. Cheryl, I think I told you this story, and I think I told it on one of my broadcasts. The rest of you I know, it was in one of my wedding blogs, wedding painter blogs, and I can't remember if it's published yet or not, but under the heading of funny things that have happened to me at weddings, one of them happened with Cheryl's younger son, who I painted, a year and a half ago now? Cheryl, I forget. A year and a half, maybe. Anyway, so I showed up at the wedding, greeted Tom and Cheryl, my old friends, and was painting away. And the assignment was to paint the first, no, it wasn't to paint the first dance. I painted the couple doing a deep dramatic bow out in front of the wedding venue, in front of the house where they were being married. Anyway, then when the time did come for the first dance, I looked up, and there was my old friend Pat Teague dancing with the bride. I mean, not the first dance, a father-daughter dance. Anyway, I was so slow, my brain was so slow, I went for about 5 seconds, maybe 10, where I thought, why is Pat Teague dancing with the bride? Because Pat Teague is an old friend too. And then slowly it dawned on me, oh, that's because, unbeknownst to me, Pat is the father of the bride. So it turns out my wife and I knew both the bride's family and the groom's family. And I didn't know it until the father-daughter dance. And then I was like, wait, what's Pat doing here? Really, I was unbelievably slow. I think I was in my painting brain. And sometimes when I'm in my painting brain, the rest of my brain isn't functioning very well. So I think I literally laughed out loud at myself. Anyway, Cheryl, hope you're doing well. Hope you're all doing well during these exciting and fascinating days. I'm correcting Kim's knuckle right here. I gave her the knuckle of an 80-year-old, little bit of arthritic bulge right there that I want to fix. All right, I think, again, how much fussy final touches could you do? And the answer is you could go on forever. Now there is, since I have a pale blue on my brush right now, there's some pale blue on this, whatever she's wearing, and she's being political, she's clearly wearing red and blue, since she's running for office. By the way, she won her primary a couple weeks ago for, I think, just the primary, mind you. But she did win the Republican primary for, I think, in North Carolina House of Representatives. We wish her all the best. She's an extraordinary and extraordinarily unusual politician, quote unquote, because she is virtually, what's the word, across the aisle, cooperative, blind to